Welcome to Life Matters. I'm your host, Brendan O'Connell. Well, we have a very special guest today from all the way from Fairfax, Virginia, on Zoom. And she's going to talk about the Democratic Party and where they stand on abortion. She belongs to an organization that I've known for about 15 years called the Democrats for Life of America. And they're somewhat beholden to the Democratic Party, but they're a pro-life organization. So we welcome the Executive Director, Kristen Day. Welcome, Kristen.
Thank you so much for having me on today.
Kristen, could you give us a snapshot of what's gone on in America, like since Roe v. Wade, as far as the parties are concerned, and where we're at today?
Since the Dobbs decision, it has been even more polarizing than it has ever been since Roe was first decided, in the 70s. We see the parties really, I think my party really embracing this abortion-only solution to a pregnancy and pushing these, Roe decisions in the states with these constitutional amendments in the states to legalize abortion up to birth. So it's been a really hard push from my party to really make abortion a priority in the states instead of looking for ways to support women who are pregnant.
Now, the last election cycle, I was amazed at how much of the politicians here in Massachusetts and New Hampshire, because we get a feed from New Hampshire, that they were saying in their ads that they were supported by Planned Parenthood of America, and they were boasting that. And, if people only knew that Planned Parenthood kills more people than anybody each and every year since Roe v. Wade, why do they think that's an advantage to kill the innocent human life in the womb versus a disadvantage? Do you have any thoughts?
The advantage they see is the money that comes with the Planned Parenthood endorsement and the ability to, convince women that voting for them is a good thing and it's going to empower them. I talked to we have elections here in Virginia, and I talked to a gentleman who's running for Senate. And I said, the only thing I know about you is you support abortion, and I disagree with you on that. And it's his first time running. And his response was, well, my advisors told me I had to run on abortion to win. And I think that's just such a very sad state of politics right now, where people feel like they have to run on a pro-abortion message to win. And in Virginia here, the pro-life side is only pushing a 15-week limitation, which would only affect about 2% of abortions, and that would just be late-term abortions. So it's not even a radical proposal that's being pushed here in Virginia. Yet I see people like this young candidate who's running for state senate pushing out this message that Republicans and pro-lifers want to ban abortion completely and women won't have access, which is untrue.
And how much of an advantage are they? I mean, are these people that run for rep or state senate, are they intimidated by the pro-abort movement as far as money is concerned, raising the money?
Oh, absolutely. And I think we saw that. I mean, the number one example I can give is Dan Lipinski, who was a pro-life hero in the Democratic Party. And the Democrats just did everything they could to defeat him, to try to extinguish the pro-life voice in Congress, the pro-life Democrat voice in Congress. He had sitting members of Congress opposing him and endorsing his opponent. And the pro-abortion lobbies, they spent millions and millions of dollars to defeat him and extinguish his voice. And so that's what they do that's what they're trying to do around the country. They are able to just raise vast sums of money to spread false messages about what we believe as pro-life Democrats, or even as pro-lifers in general, to win these seats and push really a pro-abortion, anti-woman agenda.
And let me ask you, as far as young pro-life Democrats, are there any young pro-life Democrats, or are they just kind of in lockstep, over the cliff type of people? Lemmings
No, we
over the
see,
cliff.
right, we see a lot of young pro-lifers, and I'm really proud of the fact that the one pro-life Democrat, or one pro-lifer who is the head of her party the pro-life party at JMU is my daughter. She's the president of the
JMU
pro-life
is James
club.
Madison University?
James Madison, right?
Okay.
And she's building a group there. We have another one of our young pro-life Dems at UVA, and she is building working with her pro-life group there. So we have these young people who tend to be more pro-life than the other generations. So we're kind of excited about this up and coming generation and pushing a more pro-life, whole life agenda.
Now, you mentioned to me that there were some victories in Louisiana. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, we were very, very excited. They in Louisiana, they have different elections. So what they do is they have what they call a runoff. And so as many people are in the runoff as there can be 10 people in the runoff. And you only advance to the general election if you don't get 50%. And we were really excited that we had about 8 pro-life Democrats advance, and they won't have a general election because they won right out over 50% of the vote, including the wonderful Senator Katrina Jackson, who is just an amazing pro-life leader in Louisiana, and just a great voice for the pro-life for the whole life.
I was down at the National Right to Life. They held a annual conference there about 5 or 6 years ago, and I was amazed at how pro-life the Louisiana area is. Really something. And they've got
it's wonderful.
They've got a great president too of that organization. Well, I wanted to ask you about it's called the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. What is that, and who is pushing it, and who's against it?
So it received bipartisan support. Senator Cassidy from Louisiana and Senator Bob Casey from Pennsylvania were the authors of the bill. And the intention was to encourage and require workplaces to provide accommodations to pregnant women. There was a case that went all the way to the Supreme Court, Young versus UPS, which we wrote an amicus brief for. She was pregnant, and her doctor didn't want her lifting heavy things, so she just wanted an accommodation where she could do another job until she came back from maternity leave. So while she was pregnant, she still wanted to work, and they refused to provide that accommodation. So the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act just codifies the law, that employers should provide accommodations to pregnant women. So it did receive bipartisan support. We were pushing for clarification that this would not include abortion, and we wanted that written into the statute. And Senator Casey assured us that this would not be used to support abortion. And as soon as it was signed into law and the regulations were written, of course, it includes abortion and the regulations. So we did write a letter to the Department of Labor saying that we wanted clarification that are opposing these regulations that would include abortion as part of the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, because that was not the intention.
So it did pass then?
It was signed. Yep, it was signed into law, and it did receive bipartisan support. It was a good thing made bad by the administration because they want to provide accommodations to women having abortions.
Well, if a Republican administration were to get in next time, could they go in and delete all of that was administratively? They're administratively writing the law, right? That's not right. That's incorrect.
No, it is not right at all. We're very disappointed in Senator Casey for not pushing harder, and he was part of the problem of not having that written into the law. That this was solely intended to support pregnant women, which who doesn't support pregnant women?
Yeah, his father was a great pro-lifer who was eschewed by the Republican Party at a convention, and then he got in on his father's name, but he's flipped. He's on the pro-abort side, I think, for the most part, isn't he?
For the most part, yes. It's very disappointing. Very, very disappointing.
Now, I want
to see.
move on. Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs, what is her situation? I think she had a line item veto or something.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, this is how crazy the Democratic Party is getting with their attacks on pregnant women. So there's a program in Arizona that provides support to homeless pregnant women, and she line item vetoed that program out of existence. For what reason, I don't know. But obviously, pregnant women need different types of situations and care while they're pregnant, and so she apparently doesn't think that pregnant women should have any any care at all, or any housing, or any support. And she line item vetoed the program.
Now, what about Colorado Democrats' abortion agenda? What's going on there?
Yeah, in Colorado, it's a little bit terrifying on how much they're pushing abortion. There is a abortion reversal pill that is available, and they passed a law saying that doctors cannot prescribe an abortion reversal pill. And the way it works,
which is just progesterone, which is natural in
Right.
in the body, and particularly during pregnancy, you have a lot more progesterone.
Yeah, because the abortion pill decreases the progesterone. So the abortion pill reversal puts more progesterone back in. So it tries to stop what was started with the abortion pill. And it's not 100% effective. It's about between 65 and 75% effective. But it's a mystery to me on why, people who are supposed to support choice would take that choice away from women and not let her change her mind if she doesn't want to have the abortion and she took that first pill, because you have to take the second pill to complete the abortion.
Right.
And it's just, I mean, we had a bit of good news though, because it was challenged in court, and looks like we won the first round.
In federal court?
In
state court?
In state court in Colorado. I believe it was state court. But so now the people who were providing the abortion pill reversal will be allowed to continue to do that.
Are there other states that have this extreme abortion policy subsequent to Dobbs becoming a law of the land, or the judgment by the Supreme Court on Nellie Gray's birthday in June, I think June 22nd of 2022?
Yeah, I think Maryland, New Jersey, New York, California have all pretty horrific abortion policies in allowing it up till birth. And ironically, they do have the highest abortion rates in the nation. And when people tell me, when we talk about this issue, is, well, Republicans cut off support for women, and we need a larger social safety net for women, or states like, but then when you look at California, they have one of the most largest social safety net of support for people, and yet they still have the highest abortion rate in the nation, one of the highest. And again, Maryland too, a very generous social safety net, but highest abortion rate. So why is that? And because they promote abortion as the solution to an unplanned pregnancy. Whereas states like Texas, where they did put an abortion limitation in, they increased their funding for their pregnancy support. And states like California, New York, they're trying to shut down pregnancy support centers. Just recently, in New Jersey too, is one that's trying to shut down pregnancy support. Congressman Gottheimer, just recently, he did a press conference in front of a pregnancy center that he had never visited, never talked to anybody in the center, never talked to any women who visited the center, and made all these wild accusations about the people who work there brainwashing women. And so we did write a 5-page letter refuting everything he accused the center of doing, and explaining that these centers do really good work in providing women with choice. And I think one of the biggest things about the pregnancy centers is they provide post-abortive healing and counseling. So even if a woman gets an abortion, they can go back to these centers, and the people will be supportive in helping them recover in any way they need from having the abortion.
Well, we in Massachusetts have some pretty radical things going on also. The legislature wants to give $1 million a year to badmouth pregnancy help centers, which in the past, in surveys the pregnancy help centers have done, they've had a 99% approval rating by the people that go in there, and they have privacy. They're, it's because that's one of the accusations the pro-aborts make. I wanted to ask you, you had co-authored an article called "The Grand Delusion." What was that all about?
So we have been analyzing, where the Democratic Party is as far as being, is it a winning issue to be, to support abortion or not? And we looked through all the states to see what is happening and where do Democrats feel on this policy. A majority of Americans, including Democrats, do support limitations on abortion. And so that's where the majority stands. And when you look at states across the country, Democrats have lost, I think, 751 seats in the state legislature. And we give some examples of how abortion and abortion extremism has harmed Democrats. When you look at West Virginia as a really prime example of Democrats used to hold 78 seats in the legislature, and Republicans had the remainder of the 100. And now that has totally flipped, where I think Democrats are down to about 14 Democrats, down from 78 to about 14. Mm-hmm. And we see, Joe Manchin is the last, probably last Democrat that will hold a U.S. Senate seat there, because he's at risk of losing his seat.
Right.
And there are more issues in West Virginia that are affecting, but abortion played a big role there. And when we look at the South, there will be no Democratic governors in the South next year unless Presley wins in Mississippi, because mm-hmm. John Bell was the only Democratic governor in the South, and he's pro-life. He was term limited, and his seat is now going to be held by a Republican. So I think when you look overall, this abortion extremism is not helping in some states. We're becoming very, very polarized, and we have now these pro-life states and these pro-abortion states. But it harms the Democratic Party. And if you're a Democrat who believes in the other parts of the party too, you're kind of leaving your constituency out in the cold by not allowing people to run and advance a pro-life agenda in their state. We've seen Democrats flip party and become Republicans, giving several states Republican supermajorities in the last year. And so it's not a good strategy for Democrats to continue to push this abortion agenda.
What states were those?
It was Louisiana and I believe it's South Carolina or North Carolina. I can't remember.
Can I ask you about Arkansas? Arkansas used to be a thoroughly Democrat state, and now it's a thoroughly Republican state. How did it go from Democrat to Republican? Was abortion one of the issues that moved people to become Republican?
Yeah, it is. Abortion played a role, and I think the religious values of a lot of people in the South. At a Democratic convention several years ago, remember they tried to take God out of the platform, and there was a lot of pushback on that. And I think, I think Democrats have they've forgotten who they're supposed to be fighting for. The Democratic Party is supposed to be fighting for the little guy and the vulnerable. And they've really lost touch with that. And they're more of a party of the elites now. And when Trump was running his first time around, I think I was one of the few people who predicted he would win. And part of that reason was that he was really reaching out to the labor working men and women. And he went to Michigan and he said he was going to overturn NAFTA and bring those jobs back home and out of Mexico and back home to Michigan. And so I think the Democrats have lost favor with labor as well. So I think it's a combination of the life issue, the labor issue, and religion that is really, particularly religion in the southern states.
Can I ask you about Michigan? There was a referendum there, and the pro-life side lost. You mentioned there are some people that are funding it, writing huge checks. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and that's a lot of these referendums that we've been losing. We've been outspent 10-1. And Michigan was a prime example of that. And the probe board brought in $45 million. $30 million of that came from 10 people from out of state, including Michael Bloomberg from New York. So you got to ask yourself, why is Michael Bloomberg spending money to pass a pro-abortion agenda in a state that he doesn't even live in? It's pretty scary. But we do have a little bit of good news on that, and on the Michigan, because they did pass this constitutional amendment was bad, but now they're trying to implement it through the legislature. And we have a pro-choice Democrat woman from Detroit who is pushing back and saying, wait a minute, I think we've gone too far. And she's opposing the codification because she said, I don't think we should be paying for abortions and taking money away from the elderly and people who need health care and to pay for abortions. And then she also said that she doesn't think that it should be a problem of women waiting having a 24-hour wait period before they have an abortion, which they're trying to eliminate in Michigan. I mean, having an abortion is a pretty big deal. It's not something you should just do on the fly. And having that wait period and giving information to women, it's something we should all support. I mean, we do this with any medical procedure. You're given information. You don't get surgery right on the spot. You have to read the data. You have to sign things. You have to learn what is going to happen. And so we are pretty pleased that we're getting some inroads with some pro-choice Democrats in Michigan who are seeing that this is not a good thing for women.
I see. I had a classmate at Georgetown University, Bill Schuette, who ran against the current governor, who's very pro-abortion. I can't think of her name, but
Gretchen Whitmer.
Oh yeah, Whitmer.
Yeah.
Now, what about the so-called Women's Health Protection Act in the U.S. Senate? Where is that, and is that got a chance of passing?
That's going nowhere fast, fortunately. But I think the authors of the bill are saying that that's a codification of Roe v. Wade, and it is not. It goes so far beyond Roe v. Wade that it would basically allow abortion up to 9 months for any reason. And we had, I think, almost every single U.S. senator, Democrat, co-sponsored that bill. But there's just not enough votes to get it passed.
Did Manchin co-sponsor?
Manchin did not, no.
He did not, I see, because he's got a big election coming in front of him. Now,
he hasn't said he's going to run yet, so we're still waiting for that.
Is that right?
Yeah, he has not announced his re-election. So
now, does abortion litmus test hurt the Democrat Party? I guess that'll be my final question.
Oh, absolutely, it does. I think this pressure to push people to be pro-abortion, we're losing out on a lot of good candidates who would be great to advance in the party and really represent, this whole life view. I think there's one bright star that we have, young. I think she's 26. She's a state rep in Connecticut, and I think if she wanted to advance in the party, she'd get some real pushback, and be pressured to. She was pressured not to be pro-life when she ran the first time, but she stood up and gave this amazing speech after she won a special election and was there about a month, and they were trying to pass a abortion extreme bill, and she gave the speech. People heard her, and when it came time for the vote, 17 other Democrats voted with her against this abortion extremist bill. Wow,
that's fantastic. Now we have someone in our state. You said that's a Democrat. Who is he, and can you tell me why?
Jeff Turco. He is incredible. We're so proud to have him in the legislature there in Massachusetts, and he's going to make a difference because he's one of the ones who's not going to back down.
Mm-hmm. One other thing, I guess I'm asking another question. Kansas. It was a shock to the pro-life community that Kansas passed, in effect, what was a pro-abortion law. What was that? Do you know?
Yeah, I think there's a longer story on that, but there were, I think the Dobbs decision really affected that outcome, but also the the language was confusing. It wasn't for lack of effort. I think the Kansas Right to Life did a great job of trying to get the message out, but I think Dobbs really messed with the outcome there. And the fact, again, we were outspent.
Right. I read an article where a tremendous amount of money came from out of state into Kansas to promote that. So, well, Kristen, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. And maybe our cross will pass when I get down to D.C. the next time, which is next week. So thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much.
And good luck in converting all the Democrats to pro-life.
I will try.
Okay. And folks, we hope you found today's show to be unique, informative, content-rich, truthful, and thought-provoking. Thanks for watching. I'm Brendan O'Connell, your friend for life.